What we have here is a delightful marriage of 1940s or 50s technology with 21st century technology that has resurrected a feature on this old fan that I have. The fan has a worm gear cut into the back of the axle that the blade spins on, and as that gear turns, it turns a gear like this, and combined with this little adjustment knob here, that lets you get the fan to oscillate back and forth, so it spreads the breeze around nicely in the room. And some years ago, the original gear on the left here, the browner one, stripped out. You can see perhaps how dished out those teeth are. Well, some years ago, or actually a year or two ago, not sure, my daughter Haley got interested in the problem and took apart the whole assembly on the back here and discovered the problem in that stripped gear, and then made a 3D model of the gear, taking careful measurements. And that model sat around for a while until a friend of mine, Matt Lowry, got a fancy new 3D printer that prints with a hard resin in very high resolution. And so we sent the model up to him, and he printed one and sent it back, and it wasn't quite right. Despite all of Haley's careful measurements, the hole in the center was just a little too tight. It has to fit over a splined axle, and when we tried to press it onto the splines of the axle, it split right down the middle and popped apart. So then Haley went back and adjusted the size of the center hole a little tiny bit. We sent it back to Matt. He printed another one, and that one fit really nicely over the spindle, except that it wasn't tight enough. The spline spindle just spun inside it, which is no use. So Haley went back a third time and split the difference in the hole sizes. Matt printed it out again and sent me two of these, one of which is now happily working away inside the mechanism there. And so I'm going to package this up and hide it in the base, so that if that one ever wears out, I'll know exactly where the spare is. And in the meantime, thanks to Haley and Matt's fine efforts, I have a fully functioning fan again. Well, the success of the gear replacement was short-lived. It seems to have already stripped out. You can see how the fan is jumping forward and backwards there. It's pulling on the gear and then losing its grip and jumping back and pulling forward again. I'm afraid that as much as it fit properly, it appears that the material itself was not durable enough, tough enough to last even a few minutes, unfortunately. So back to the drawing board. Well, I don't know what's wrong. I took the gear back out, and it doesn't particularly look stripped to me. I don't see any ground down spots. And it seemed to still have a grip on the splines, although it did come off fairly easily. When I pulled it off its axle. Oh, I see some chips on the edge there. Maybe it didn't have a good enough grip on the axle and was just slipping on the axle. I don't know. But for the moment, I'm back to a non-oscillating fan.